Thank you.
All right. So we have no special presentations or announcement this evening. So I'm going to open up public comment. This is a general public comment for items not on the agenda. The only item on the agenda tonight is city manager search RFP and the awarding of possible awarding of a bid. So if anyone would have any general public comments, please either come to the podium. I don't see one in the room, or if you're on Zoom, raise your hand. Seeing none, I will now close public comment for this evening. For council and staff comments, we did meet last week, but Acting City Manager Michelson, do you have any comments?
I don't.
All right.
Yeah.
Does council have any comments?
No.
No. No. All right. Then let's proceed to, let's forego committee reports until next week. We have no approval of the minutes. We have no consent agenda. We have no public hearing. We do have old business. The item we're meeting for tonight, the city manager search RFP and awarding of the bid. So as you guys well know, we sent out an RFP asking for a firm to conduct a city manager search for us and help us in that process. 2 firms responded. We have Koff and Associates. You should have gotten the packet from last week. And let's see the other one. We have WBCP as well. I hope you guys all had a chance to look at them. Juliana and I and the committee, we both have read through them. She'll have her own comments on them. Mine are that they're fairly comparable as far as the level of firms. They're close in price. One has a better guarantee, but is a little more expensive, though importantly, they offer a 2-year warranty, essentially. If things don't work out with the city manager in the next 2 years, they'll do the process again for free. The other one has that guarantee, I think, for 1 year, but costs a little bit less. But the cost we're talking about here is Koff and Associates, I believe, is the one that's $24,000 to conduct the search, and the other one is $28,000, with some small difference in how they allocate additional expenses depending on how much they travel.
Still, it was about $4,000, right?
$4,000 different. Well, the way I read it, WBCP, they are $28,000, but they also say up to $7,500 in expenses. Where the way I read it, at least, Koff and Associates, it seems all inclusive, with one additional option of $3,500 to make a commercial to help advertise our city, which we could decide to do or not. But we've read through them. I believe Councilwoman Lucchese's contacted some of the references. Juliana, do you want to step in?
Sure. So yeah, I reached out to all of the references that were provided. All of them were really well received, but I felt the WBCP, the people that I contacted for that, they had a little bit more longevity for the positions that they eventually assisted with the hiring of for a number of their city manager positions. I did not reach out to either entity to discuss, those additional costs. But yeah, they were both very well received from the references, but from my perspective, the WBCP, the references that they offered, they had a long-standing contract with those positions.
Could I ask, between the two of you that have looked into this a little bit more, what are your thoughts in terms of the concept? Are they both going to operate the same way? I mean, are there differences in terms of their approach? What would set them apart other than just the dollars?
My perspective, and I didn't call references the way Councilman Lucchese did, so that definitely is an important factor. They more or less follow the same 3-month guide. One's 13-week, one's 12-week, but where they meet with us, they go over stakeholders, so we can potentially have a community meeting, figure out what it is we're looking for, come up with a marketing strategy, go out, market. They vet candidates for us, bring us them, and they assist in the negotiations. So it's pretty much from, it's about 3 months from when they start to when we should have someone ready to be hired in the next week or two.
I felt from, looking at the proposals, they are very comparable. WBCP offers a little bit more flexibility in terms of integrating in the community input aspect. Cost and Associates did respond to that, but WBCP offered more options for us within their proposal to putting together that background qualifications and getting more public support. So I know that was a focus for Councilmember Arce in the past, is to have public input and business owner input. And I felt that BCP's proposal and approach integrated that in more, which could be also because of that increase in price. But I did just double check in the proposals, the 28,000 for BCP or WBCP does include up to 2 trips up here for the consulting services. So for the additional 5,500 to 7,500, I think that's in addition to up to 2 trips up here.
Okay, thanks.
So why does it say 550 to 750 not to exceed?
Can you say that again? So it would be it's in the previous packets, page 98, where they have the service cost per recruitment city manager. So the consulting services phase 1 through 4 in the proposal scope of work and includes travel to the client locations in parentheses up to 2 trips, which is within the 28,500 not to exceed. And then the additional expenses would be in addition to those consulting services, and we would have to approve that additional travel.
Yeah, but the way I was reading it is expenses, they project 550 in expenses, but definitely not to exceed 750. Which is
Yes.
7,500.
So it's at least going to be another 5,500 above the
No.
8,500?
The 28,500 includes all of the scope of work that we requested, and that is on beginning on page 94 of our previous packets. So what's included in that 28,000 is those items. The other thing too is the background check is optional for them to conduct that background check. So Coffin Associates did the same thing, where I think they made it an optional thing that we could take out of the final contract. I'm trying to find that section. And I don't think Koff mentioned how many visits there's going to be, but let me find that.
So you're talking 36,000 if it's maxed out.
Yeah.
Yeah. You good with that?
Well, the big question is, do we have to go by the lowest bid?
No, you do not.
Okay.
We don't have to go with the lowest bid, but the maxed out price kind of scares me, Juliana. That's $36,000 if they're maxed out on everything. Are we looking to spend that? Peter, you got something to say on this? What's your thoughts, sir?
Well, I don't have a memo in my packet, so I'm still not clear whether the staff has a recommendation or the committee has a recommendation.
Well, the committee is divided on recommendation. I think, Juliana, I guess you could say your recommendation. I don't see a lot to delineate between the two other than the costs. Juliana brought up some good points. They're fairly comparable, and the cost difference isn't that huge, but one is $4,000 cheaper.
I'm simply thrilled that we're taking this step. the last time we did this,
Jeez.
we found, well, it was 2010. Alan Harvey was city manager. The executive recruiter delivered an excellent candidate that would have stayed, but the city didn't want him to stay. A 2-year guarantee to me is worth a lot more than a 1-year guarantee. And I do note for WRCP, it's a woman-owned business, and they are registered in California, Oregon, and Washington, which I think are going to be our sweet spots for finding candidates. And so to me, the difference in expense is inconsequential. The whole prize is getting the right candidate that's likely to stay for 2 or more years. So I'm perfectly happy with either one, leaning toward WRCP.
Just to,
Go ahead,
sorry, go ahead.
Juliana.
I was going to say, I did check the Coffin Associates, and the Coffin Associates do not guarantee any on-site meetings with their price. They do have a small statement in their proposal that says on-site meetings as requested, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's guaranteed. So I think that's where some of the added costs may be for the WBCP or WRCP, sorry. No, it's WBCP.
Yes, WBCP, I was getting confused there.
Yes, okay. So again, I think Matthew and I were a little bit split on this. I liked the approach of WBCP. I felt they did a lot more in terms of trying to understand our needs from a small city perspective. From the references that I called, WBCP had that longevity aspect, and they were both very positive working relationships with the cities themselves. The other thing too is if we do have some concerns on the price, again, the proposal is a proposal. Once we put the executive agreement together, we can make sure that, if there are additional costs, that those come back to the council before we make those. Okay. So I'm not terribly concerned at exceeding the budget in terms of their estimate, because again, we can put that into our agreement with them that anything over the 28.5 is going to be something that we have to make special approval of. I just, like I said, I felt WBCP was going to give us more of a catered approach than the Coffin Associates. But if the greater majority of the council wants to go with Coffin Associates, I'm not going to be heartbroken. I do have to say, I am not in favor of doing a commercial. From just a practical standpoint of, being in the profession that I'm in, getting a commercial to advertise for this position isn't really that, I don't know. It's not really needed, in my opinion. So if we do go with Coff, I don't want to pay for the video, but in my personal opinion, I think we're going to get a better approach and a better job with WBCP.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Been here, agree with you 100,000%, Juliana. We had when we were trying to do a research thing on one of the people wanted to do a commercial. And the majority of the council at that time felt, why? We didn't think that a commercial is what we needed. I don't think what we're advertising for is a commercial type thing. So I would have to agree with you on that. The extra cost for a commercial,
Well,
if that was the thing.
I definitely don't intend on giving any of the company $3,500 to make a commercial. Dunsmuir, where they need our resources to even come up with it. I like the idea of maybe council commissioning a general advertisement explaining the value and beauty of the vibrant community we have here in Dunsmuir. We could use for any number of other projects, or maybe something in partnership with the chamber. Say, like, when we give them the money, we expect them to maybe work with pushers to bring us back something that all of us can use. But the idea of making a commercial specifically tailored to come here to city manage,
Right.
Yeah,
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Question? The one thing I'm kind of curious about, do we, have any way of figuring out how we're going to get a salary study done so that we can have that under our belt? Do either of these do any sort of salary surveys?
I'm sure they have a lot of knowledge on that, but I think we discussed it, it was a couple months ago, but we'd like the finance committee to really look closely at the budget and see, without looking at specific candidates, what the city could sustain on the one hand, but it'd be really helpful to get that information.
Both are able to offer salary and benchmark studies, and part of the developing of a candidate includes the determination of a salary range for both parties.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the League of California Cities, they have a huge database as well, so they might be willing to help. But here again, and I'm sorry I called it WR, all the bottoms of my pages are cut off, WBCP, with the client base they have, they should know pretty well what the positions are going for up and down the Pacific Coast. What I wanted to ask, and I agree, I don't think we need a commercial, but whichever one of you negotiates with the winning provider, would they consent without necessarily being a part of it to participating, the finalists at least, in a meeting with the business community, just to get to know you session? It could be a chamber mixer, it could be anything. But I think one of the difficulties we've had is this is so in-house that the finalists never really get to meet the businesses they're going to interact with and the people they're going to interact with. And the more we could give them a sense of the little tiny city they're about to manage, I think that would be well received, at least by the business community. No points, no ratings, just question answer. Vision planning.
Well, there was one thing we did. I think we did it for hiring Mark, maybe not.
Yeah, it was Mark. We did something like that with Mark.
We had a session where, and it was Dave Clarnow did the moderating, but it really explained all the things that a city manager did, because most people are out there going, what is a city, why do we need one? And after that was over with, everyone really understood. And so I think that would be useful at some point in the process to repeat that.
Actually, what it was Dave Clarnow kind of cleaned the plate behind Brenda Baines to set the stage for Mark. Because everybody had that Brenda Baines mentality, you know what I mean? Where'd the money go? So.
Well, if it was any of us, you don't want to come into the job 100% cold.
No, you want to get a feel. Yeah, I agree.
The WBCP had, a stronger, grassroots community base before we even look for candidates, figuring out not just what council would like, but what the community would like as well, although they should be close.
Yeah, and to put that back in, so in costs and associates, the interview facilitation step 4, which is on page 66 of that previous packet, does not involve a robust hiring panel and process, where WBCP does offer the option of having a 2-day interview, which is a little bit more expensive, but it would include panel discussions with different focus groups and needs that we have. And it would also be a second day of interviews with executive leaders. And then they do offer 3rd interviews, maybe scheduled as needed, with boards, commissions, et cetera. So like I said before, my leaning towards WBCP, it is more expensive, and I understand that, but it is going to guarantee us and give us the process that, like I said, Councilmember Arth has talked about, which is getting more input as we move forward through the process from some of those outside agencies and individuals.
Blake, what are your thoughts as ACM?
I think City Council can make a fantastic decision.
How are we doing budget-wise?
This is not currently in the budget, so we need a budget amendment. There is this fund, the money that we got for coronavirus. There is that pot of money. Potentially that could be used.
That I found out on that too is that we don't have to go through the stringent rationalization to spend money. That's all been put straight into the general fund. Is that right?
Not quite.
There's the idea that it is a coronavirus funding source. So we can claim a $10 million limit on the revenue part to where we do not have to provide a lot of backup documentation for the loss of revenue if it's $10 million or less. So still COVID related, but we don't have to provide a lot of documentation based on the fact that we have a less than $10 million revenue loss due to COVID. So a budget amendment would need to be made with the decision tonight.
Well, I wasn't prepared for the budget amendment part, but I am happy to move that we accept the proposal.
Point of clarification, we do need to open this up for public comment.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we do. All right, is there any further questions regarding the proposals?
No.
All right, then I'll open it up for public comment. There's no public in the room with us this evening, but if you're on Zoom, go to the reactions tab and hit the raise your hand button.
Got any hands, Blake?
Now, do you want me to go to undo Juliana's pin so you guys can see?
We'd be able to see a hand. All right, there's no hands raised. I will now close public comment on this item. And we can proceed with discussion or motions.
It would be my pleasure to move that the city accept the proposal of WBCP to provide recruitment services for us to secure the city manager for the city of Dunsmuir and to make the appropriate budget adjustment to fund the proposal.
I'll second that motion.
May I request an amendment to authorize the acting city manager and city attorney to begin negotiations with WBCP?
As amended.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you.
As amended.
Need a second?
Second, as amended.
Yeah, Dave had the
All
second.
right, any discussion of the motion?
That a boy.
You're going to need a roll call on
No,
this.
we need a roll call on this one.
Yeah,
We do.
all right. Councilman Art,
Yes.
Councilwoman Lucchese,
Aye.
Councilman Keisler,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Deutsch,
Aye.
and myself is also an aye. Motion carries unanimously.
Make sure that this firm knows it was unanimous and we wish them the best and get us the right. When are we gonna have a meeting, finance committee meeting, Juliana?
I believe our next one should be on Monday, Blake, is that correct?
Yep, Monday the 28th,
Okay,
this coming Monday.
At 5?
Let's do 5, yep.
that's fine with me. I like
Okay,
5.
sounds good.
Zoom?
Yeah, I'll probably need Zoom because I've been working a lot and I'm stuck in Wairika at 5.
Yeah.
Anyway,
All right.
Do we need to talk about amending the budget here? We just did. Okay, so.
Yep.
It's a done deal?
All right. So then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
so
Make one.
moved.
So, second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 We
Hey,
are
Stacy,
Thank you,
before you
everybody.
go, I want to thank Pusher for doing such a wonderful job with the collaborative video. It's tremendous, Stacy. Pass the word, please.
Yes.
Bruce. I will. Hi, everybody.
Good night.
I got a feedback coming up at 6, so.
Oh, really? Back to back.
Yep.
Let me